So the Nintendo Switch came out almost 8 years ago in March of 2017. And as we're getting closer and closer to not only the reveal of the Switch, which should be in either a couple of days or a couple of weeks, um, the release is apparently this year, and according to rumors, it might come in between March and April. So I thought it'd be great if we take a look back at the Nintendo Switch and its library, the hardware that it's gotten and the software updates it's gotten over the last almost 8 years, and just take a quick glance at what happened in those almost 8 years of the Nintendo Switch and why it surpassed the PS2 in sales. I also want to talk about a little bit on the Nintendo Switch 2 and some of the things that's been discovered recently. It seems like every day there's a new leak on the Switch 2 and Nintendo gotta hurry up and show the thing first, because these leaks are getting crazy. Every day we see more and more of the Switch. But yeah, let's get started. So the Nintendo Switch launched on March 3rd, 2017. And at that time, it was selling out so quickly that it was sold out everywhere, and to find one was very hard. I didn't end up getting one until mid-2018, around June, July. I checked my Snapchat history to see when I got this thing. And I was looking like, all right, when did I have a Switch? When I didn't. And it seemed to be around June, July of 2018 where I got it. It launched with one of my favorite games of all time, the Breath of the Wild. That game was so amazing. Same thing with, well, not same thing. I liked Mario Odyssey, but it's not one of my favorites. It was a good game, but I don't quantify it as one of my favorites. But one of the special things about the Switch was that once everybody was done playing Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey at the time, people were starving for more games. Because of the, lack of success for the Wii U, third-party publishers were a bit more reluctant to release their games for a Nintendo platform. So Nintendo Switch owners went to the eShop and they started buying indie games. And honestly, this was like the resurgence of Xbox Live Arcade. People were playing Stardew Valley, they were playing Hollow Knight, Celeste, SteamWorld Dig. These games were popping off because Nintendo Switch owners wanted to play more games on it. And the fact that it's a console and a handheld made these games more enjoyable to play, because you can take it with you, you can put it in your bag, and you can play it anywhere you are. And I think this success was this is what made indie games pop off. Now indie games have their own Nintendo presentations, the Indie Directs, and they're in a good state. After a while, publishers started to see the success of the Nintendo Switch. They started releasing ports of their games. We got The Witcher 3, we got Doom, we got the Batman games, although I hear that's not that great. And while they didn't run the best, they were playable. It was a magnificent feat that these games were running on the Switch. The Switch success isn't only because of the third-party publishers and indie games. Nintendo themselves were releasing some great games for it. We got the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which had an insane cast of characters with the DLC and the base roster as well. We got a sequel to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I need to look at my Switch. We also got a new Pokemon game, Pokemon Legends Arceus, which was a different take on Pokemon, where it was set in the past, and instead of battling Pokemon, you can just capture them outright. And honestly, I love this game. This game was so fun. I actually completed the Pokédex, which is rare. I usually don't do that. We also got two remakes. We got a remake of Pokemon Yellow and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. We also got a remake of Diamond and Pearl, which was the first Pokemon game I've ever played. And of course I got Diamond again and I beat it. I tried to play Pearl, but I played it too soon and I kind of got bored. I'm not good at replaying games, but still, even though they didn't do much with the Diamond and Pearl remakes, it was my first one and I was happy to play it again. So I'm a little biased on that one. Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu was a little controversial because it was even more hand-holding, but it looked amazing. Like, at least they try to make the game look good, and I can't fault them at that. The Nintendo Switch also had a lot of Wii U ports. Let's be honest, not a lot of people bought a Wii U, and I don't really blame Nintendo for re-releasing these games on the Switch because it's successful and not a lot of people play these games on the Wii U. You got games such as, well, the only one I really bought was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because, I mean, you gotta have a Mario Kart, and it was pretty good. They also made DLC for it several years later. They made about 2-track courses, and they also made DLC characters, which was nice. And they also made it part of the Nintendo Switch Online, which we will talk about later. But to wrap up this section of the games, the Nintendo Switch, in terms of its library, it's a very solid library. They have so many games, and you know, I think Nintendo did a pretty good job. The only thing I'll fault them with is that currently the eShop has a lot of bloatware, and they should really set more restrictions for the games that get uploaded on the eShop, because some of these games are just, I don't know, they're just not games at all, I'd say. The next thing I wanted to talk about the Nintendo Switch is the hardware. So the first version of the Nintendo Switch was pretty good. It did this job. It was a hybrid console that you can put on a dock, and you can play it on the screen. You can take the Joy-Cons off. It was a pretty good console. Though I'd say it had only 2 faults. Number one, the screen had these giant bezels, and it was also an LCD, which back then wasn't a problem, but now that we have the OLED, it's much worse. And the second issue was the kickstand. That thing was so flimsy, it was terrible. Several years later, which let's fact check that. So in September 20th, 2019, Nintendo released the Nintendo Switch Lite, and it was a pretty good device. It was a Switch that cannot be docked, and it didn't have the kickstand. It was smaller and it was cheaper, but it was a pure handheld. You cannot play any games on a TV. You can still connect Joy-Cons to it and use it, but at its base, it was a handheld. And it did pretty good. I've seen a lot of people have it. I myself bought 2 of them, one for a friend and one for my nephew. And it was a neat device. The only problem was that during the lifespan of the Nintendo Switch, the Joy-Cons and the analog sticks on the Switch Lite were prone to drifting. Now, there was a giant lawsuit about that. I don't remember if Nintendo won or lost, but they did launch a program for a free replacement. So you can send your Joy-Cons to them and they will send you back a replacement. I ended up doing that once for my original Joy-Cons, and the process went smooth. Now, the problem is, if you have a Switch Lite, you have to send the entire console, and some games aren't backed up by the cloud. So if you send in your Switch Lite, you might lose your progress in any other Pokemon games because they don't back up to the cloud, which is terrible. Same thing with Animal Crossing. The backup for that is a little iffy. Now, one of the best accessories for the Switch is the Pro Controller. I will say they did a very good job with this controller. It has all the features of the Joy-Cons. It has the HD rumble, it has the NFC on it, and it's actually a very solid controller and it feels very good to hold. And honestly, this is one of the best accessories they've made. October 8th, 2021, Nintendo released the Nintendo Switch OLED, which was essentially, in terms of internals, the same thing as the regular Switch, but it has two different features. Number one, the screen is an OLED display. It was a bigger display because they shaved off some of the bezels, and it has a better kickstand, which is almost the entirety of the bottom of the device. Well, yeah. Those were the two highlight features for the Switch. Honestly, this feels like the device they should have released back in 2017 because this screen is beautiful. The one game that kind of just wows me is when I launched Stardew Valley, because the colors just pop off, and this doesn't even have HDR. So overall, in terms of the hardware that they released for the Switch, they did a pretty good job. You know, I understand the first Switch was what they could do at the time, and then the Switch Lite was a solid additional option. And the Switch OLED was, although it was supposed to be the Pro device, but because of COVID, they didn't do that. So they did pretty good with the hardware. Now, let's talk about the software updates. I mean, what do they add? We never got themes. We got folders, but they're kind of inconvenient. You have to go all the way to the right, then press RB, and then you'll see your folders there. And they added Bluetooth maybe like 4 years into the device, even though it had a Bluetooth antenna this whole entire time. Yeah, so the software updates are very lacking. And really, there's not much to say about the software updates because they didn't really do much. So hopefully with the Nintendo Switch 2, they maybe add some more features, maybe the UI is more improved, and make it feel like it's an upgrade. Because one of the issues I had with the generation jump from the Xbox One to the Xbox Series X was that it was the same UI, and you really didn't get that new console feel that you do with the PlayStation. Editor John here. I completely forgot to talk about the Nintendo Switch Online portion of the video, so I'm gonna do it really quickly right now. I think the Nintendo Switch Online is a decent offering. I don't like that you have to pay online, because usually the online interface, or rather the online experience, is very subpar, especially with like games like Smash Brothers. It can be a lag fest. Mario Kart's decent, but overall I don't really like the idea that you have to pay online to play your games online. In terms of the offering that they have, like the features, they have a pretty decent collection of games to play from the N64, and they also have the Game Boy Advance, Game Boy. So it's a pretty decent catalog. Hopefully they can add more consoles and more games during the Switch 2 generation. In terms of whether or not it's worth the price, well, if you play games online, well, of course it is. And if you have 5 other friends, I definitely recommend the family plan. You save money by doing it. Overall, it's a decent service that grew to be better over time. At first, it wasn't that great and wasn't really worth it. But as it is now in 2025, it's pretty decent for the price. I think it's like $20 a month for an individual plan and $50 for a family, and $80 for the expansion pass for a family, which can be a lot, but it's not that bad. It's around $5 to $10 if you do a family plan, depending on which one you pick. So comes the final segment of this video, which is about the Switch 2. Now, every day we get a new leak about the Switch 2 from pictures. I won't post any of them because I don't want the Nintendo ninjas to get at me. But I just want to talk about it for a little bit. Anyway, it's touted to be a little bit less powerful than the PlayStation 4 Pro, which If I'm not mistaken, that means it's more powerful than the Steam Deck. But there is one key difference between the market and how it is now and how it is in 2017. See, the success of the Switch made a lot of third-party companies interested in the handheld market. And nowadays, it's not just the Switch. We have the Steam Deck, we have the Asus ROG Ally, we have the MSI Claw, the Lenovo Legion Go, and then all the Ambernics and all the other handhelds. So the market is very saturated right now. And that means Nintendo got to bring their A game. So we still don't know what's going to be the gimmick on the Switch 2. So hopefully Nintendo surprises us with that. Because as far as the leaks go, we've seen the outside of the device. Even case manufacturers are like leaking it. We've seen some of the internals. We've seen the Joy-Cons. And we gotta see what Nintendo. We should see it soon. It's been rumored that they're gonna move up the date of when they're gonna show it. Apparently we're gonna see it this month, and it should release around March and April. I'm gonna try to get it day one because I know Nintendo's gonna cook up something. They're not just gonna release it without any significant games. I'm a little upset, and I hope it's not true, that the screen is not an OLED screen, because man, that screen on the Switch OLED looks so good, and I hope they don't downgrade back to LCD. At least use mini LED, because LCD is just not it in 2025. But let me know what you guys think. Are you happy with your Switch these past almost 8 years? What are your complaints about the Switch, and what are you hoping for the Switch 2 to do? Leave a comment below. What are your thoughts? And let me know if you're getting the Switch 2. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, give it a subscribe if you like my content. This year, I'm gonna start posting more consistently. That's one of my resolutions, because I like doing videos. It's fun, and I like reading you guys' comments. I read every single comment. All of them. I read all of them. But yeah. Peace.